Hi guys, it's Mrs. Millicent. Okay, let's do the check and understand on page 103. Okay, Noble's Amusement Park in Ellisburg, Pennsylvania, I'll have to Google that, has earned acclaim for being an affordable, family-friendly entertainment venue. Nobles does not charge for general admission or parking, but it does charge customers for each ride they take. And how much do the rides cost at Nobles? Well, the figure shows a dot plot of the cost of each of the 22 rides in a recent year, along with some summary statistics. So our distribution is definitely right skewed. It's got a peak at $1.50, some possible outliers. We've got our mean and standard deviation. We've got our 5-number summary. Got a lot of good stuff. Okay, suppose you convert the cost of the rides from dollars to cents. So basically $1 to 100 cents, we'll just have to multiply everything by 100. So before we do all of our calculations here, let's do a quick little rundown on transformations. Okay, no matter how you transform your data, whether you add, subtract, multiply, or divide the same thing to every piece of data, two things will never change: your shape and your outliers. Now, the value of your outliers might change, but if the lowest one is an outlier, the lowest observation will always be an outlier. So shape and outliers do not change. Okay? Now, center, and I'm talking mean and median, they will be impacted. Center will be impacted by everything. So if you add or subtract or multiply and divide, it will change your mean or median. Now, spread, which is range, standard deviation, and IQR, will only react to multiplication and division. So if we add or subtract something from every observation, the spread, none of the spreads will change. Okay, so if we can keep that in mind, we can figure these out. All right, so first one, suppose you convert the cost of the rides from dollars to cents. Describe the shape, mean, and standard deviation of the distribution of ride costs in cents. So again, the shape won't change. So if I just change those dollars to cents, the shape will still be right skewed. Okay, so there's no change. Okay, still right skewed. Now, what about this mean? Okay, well, the mean is $1 and roughly 71 cents. Okay, the mean will change. So if I'm going to multiply by 100 cents, okay, by 100 to go from dollars to cents, multiplication does impact center. So my new mean, if I multiply it by 100, will be 170.5 cents. Okay, so that will change. And then standard deviation, I'm going to abbreviate. Standard deviation also is also impacted by multiplication. So I'm going to take my standard deviation, which is 0.447, and multiply it by 100. So now my standard deviation is 44.7 cents. So in terms of cents, okay, instead of dollars, my average is 170.5 cents, and that varies by 44.7 cents. Okay, so multiplication impacts center and spread. Okay, Noble's manager decides to increase the cost of each ride by 25 cents. So how would the shape, center, and variability of this distribution compare with the distribution in question 1? Okay, so now not only am I going to do my multiplication, I'm going to have to increase it by 25%. So I'm adding 25 cents. Okay, so if I add 25 cents now to after I multiply them all by 100 and add 25 cents, shape isn't going to change. And if these are outliers, they're still going to be outliers. Okay, so shape, no change. Still right skewed. Now mean, center. So let's do them all. So the mean is impacted by adding and subtracting. So the mean, I'm going to take the 170.5 cents, and I'm going to add 25 cents. So now I'm going to get, what, 195.5 cents, okay? If I did the median, since it says center, if I did the median, now the median here is in dollars, so I would have to take $1.50, multiply it by 100 from the first one, and add 25. So what's that? 150 plus 25, so that's 175 cents. Okay? So center is always impacted by multiplication and addition. Okay? And then variability. So let's do variability, which would be range, standard deviation, and IQR. Okay, now variability and spread is not going to be impacted, is only impacted by addition and, multiplication and division. It's not impacted by addition and subtraction. So adding 25 cents isn't going to do anything. Okay, these will not change. When adding 25 cents, okay? Standard deviation and range and IQR will change by multiplying by 100, okay? So my standard deviation, when I multiplied by 100, is 44.7 cents. My IQR is what, 0.25, so 25 cents, okay? And then my range is what, $1.75, so 175 cents. So they will be impacted when I multiply by 100, but not when I add 25 cents. Okay? All right, last one. Suppose you convert the increased cost from question 2 to z-scores. What would be the shape, mean, and standard deviation? Okay, so z-scores. Again, shape won't change. Okay. No change. It's still right skewed. Mean, right, it asks for mean. Yep. Okay, now remember our z-score formula, x minus the mean over the standard deviation. Well, if I was going to z-score, I would take the mean and I would minus the mean. So I'm going to get 0. So I'm going to get 0 divided by whatever the standard deviation. Well, 0 divided by anything is 0. So my mean, my transformed mean would just be 0. Okay, and that is the mean of the z-score. Okay, when we do a z-score, the mean is always 0, and then we have z-scores that are greater than 0 or less than 0 to tell us something, to tell us if an observation is greater than or less than the average. Okay. So now if we do standard deviation, I'll put that down here. Okay, so standard deviation is not going to be impacted by the addition and subtraction, it's just going to be the division. So if I take the standard deviation and divide it by its standard deviation, if I divide it by itself, I'm going to get 1. So the standard deviation is simply going to be 1, and that makes sense. Okay, in a z-score, every standard deviation is signified by a z-score of 1. 1 standard deviation above the mean is 1. 2 standard deviations above the mean is a z-score of 2. 3 standard deviations above the mean is a z-score of 3, and so forth. Okay? All right. I hope this was helpful. And don't forget our little summary up here. Shape and outliers don't change. Center is impacted by every mathematical thing you can do. And spread is only impacted by multiplication and division. Okay. Hope this helped. See you next time.